What would your dream hobby be if time and money were not an issue? An ever-expanding animal sanctuary. I would pay to visit an ever-expanding animal sanctuary. This, working towards my goal of a hobby farm, but if I had the funds I'd go full-blown farm animal sanctuary. Hope to populate my hobby farm with rescues regardless. Sailing. Like racing lasers? Or more like traveling the Caribbean on a yacht. Get your competent crew training and offer to crew at your nearest yacht club, providing you're coastal. Twilight racing is great fun, as is weekend racing, and there's almost always someone looking for crew, so you can get on board for practically nothing. I know it sounds patronizing, but you're really missing out on some pretty unreal afternoons by not doing this. Do it. I take in dogs that often get passed over at shelters and restore antique clothing, furniture and other things. End goal, I live in a big old restored house with an army of dogs and the local children believe I am a witch. I too share this end goal. You sound like the kind of neighbor I'd idolize as a kid. By kid I mean age 5, death. I love carpentry. I watch dozens of YouTube videos on woodwork. I freaking love it and the creativity is endless. I wish I had a huge garage and a set of tools to work with. Me too. I love to restore and repair. Those lathe videos get me going. If only a good lathe was affordable. Blacksmithing. I love knives and blades, but I can't really afford it since I'm a student. You can get pretty far without spending too much. Building a forge is pretty simple. A few hammers and a hunk of steel. I used a piece of trail rails and you got a decent start. The most expensive thing I got was the belt sander. Look for a local museum that keeps a smithy. You can usually get started in some classes for relatively cheap without needing a lot of the equipment yourself. Collecting and playing as many instruments as I can. I really love music. Check your local pawn shop, YMMV in terms of the quality of instrument, but I bought a bass like 15 years ago from a pawn shop for $20 and that thing still bangs. It's been one of the best purchases I ever made. Just gotta be thorough when you try them out. Yup, this is mine too. I only have time to get lessons for piano and guitar bi-weekly, and even then sometimes I have to cancel lessons due to things coming up, but I also want to learn violin/alto sax/bass but lack the time and money. If I could I'd learn every instrument. Growing plants. Any plants. Medicinal, food, or just flowers to look good. Giant greenhouses on acres of land dedicated to growing many plants, all day every day. You should grow a lot of medicinal plants, like poppies. In Howl's Moving Castle, book not film, there's a scene where the wizard creates this beautiful oasis filled with flowers in the wasteland so they can open a florist's. And I've always loved the idea of this gorgeous wild garden bursting with flowers. Painting on large canvases with oil paints. Both the canvas and paint are so expensive and it's incredibly time consuming to do anything with oil paints. If I could afford it, I'd do many more paintings. Edit, holy smoke skies. Thanks so much for all the advice on how to get back into this. You could also look into buying a roll of canvas and learn to make/stretch your own. The tools required are inexpensive. If you decide to look into this, watch the sales of Michael's/Hobby Lobby. 2 years ago, there was a 48-hour 75% off canvases sales at Michael's. I was able to get 3 canvases in the 4 foot by 3 foot size for $25 total. It's a large enough hobby project. I'm still working on it, hopefully have a few hours later today. Also, they have a 40 to 50% off one full priced item almost every week. I completely agree with you about price, but if you're interested in trying it anyways, I'm always happy to try and pass on sale tips. Smile. Having a garage and learning to fix old cars. That's what I do too. I love cars from the 60s, 90s. This one is definitely on my list as well. My poor old BMW is dying in my garage right now. The main limiting factor of D&D is the time to get people together to play, so I'd finally get the opportunity to run the 8 or 9 campaigns I have stored away. I might even have the opportunity to run them multiple times for different groups so I could really fine-tune them. The true beg is adult scheduling. When I get rich, I'm gonna set up a gaming commune. Everyone who joins will be provided with all the necessities of life in exchange for their gaming services. You shall be the head DM. I think you might be the only one who also factored other people's time and money into it, and I absolutely love you for that. Lego. Hell yeah. I want an entire room dedicated to Lego, where I can continually add to a gigantic world that ranges from western towns to medieval castles to franchise stuff like Harry Potter and Star Wars. I was looking for this. I wish the sets weren't so damn expensive. Whale watching. Hell, I'm lucky. I see one every day in my mirror. Restoring old homes. Honestly, if money and time wasn't really a factor, I would love to do this. My wife and I love to drive through old parts of towns around us where the old Victorian or bungalow-style homes are from 100 years ago. They have so much character and are usually built very well. Fixing any problems doesn't come cheap, though. Traveling and experiencing cultures around the world. Making movies, making films, fighting around the world. Pretty similar, but I'd be more into cuisines. It somehow connects with the culture, but I want it to be more specific. Traveling and eating. Oh yes. Hiking. I love walking. I'd love to have days to go on treks into proper forests and mountains. Have you ever thought of doing a through hike? If so, there are a bunch of shorter trails throughout the US that you can hike that wouldn't take longer than a few days or a full week. It's quite affordable and you wouldn't need to take that much off from work, versus the 5 to 6 months and $1,000s you need to through hike a much longer trail. This one is actually doable. Do it. I'd personally love to get into model trains again. 1-to-1 scale model trains. Yo, do we make a full Christmas village with trains every year? When it's done there will be pics. The building process I'd open to everyone who likes to do some good old-fashioned family stuff. Wildlife/bird photography. As I watch a family of cardinals outside my office window, I've been thinking the same thing all day. This is me. I just published a calendar of bird photos, but it's a money loser. I knew this going in. If money were not a concern, I would be trying to photograph every species of hummingbird, which is nigh impossible, let me tell you. Also, owls are awesome, as well as colorful stuff like tanagers. Turn me loose in Central/South America. Gotta work on my Spanish though. Making diamond-studded bad dragons for charity. Diamond-studded, platinum-plated dildos? Yes. Greater than be me, greater than starving Nigerian kid, greater than try to learn to write because I hear about some billionaire doing charity work, greater than it's hard but the suffering of my village motivates me, greater than write him a letter asking for aid, he's our only hope, greater than never hear back, greater than hope starts to fade, greater than hear a loud roaring sound overhead, greater than it's a bird, it's a plane. Yeah, it's a plane. Greater than lands outside village. Greater than fancy white man walks out with crates being unloaded behind him, greater than it's the billionaire. My village is saved more than hug him with tears in my eyes, greater than he pats me on the head and tells me everything will be okay now, greater than we throw a feast with the last of our food in his honor, greater than he graciously accepts and parties all night, greater than leaves in the morning, greater than village gathers around crates, greater than open themes, greater than filled with diamond horse dicks, dog dicks, I think I even see a tentacled dick. Greater than die, starving but pleasured. I would just run for days like Forrest Gump did. This is so pure. And I thought that was an expression of his isolation and depression. Or maybe you were saying that his way of dealing with those issues is what your ideal form of therapy as well. Collecting and playing board games. This is what I do now, despite the fact that time and money are certainly an issue. Since I was a teenager, I always said that if I ever win the lottery I would buy a plane and do humanitarian missions with it. Bring some vaccines in isolated places around the world, do some medical evacuation with it, etc. I'm now a pilot on a medevac plane, so I guess I'm not too far from this. I wake up every day and enjoy the job I dreamed I left since I was 6 years/show. Flying is a very expensive hobby. I'm glad I'm getting paid for it, but it's also my favorite hobby. I plan on doing similar at some point, through the organization Mission Aviation Fellowship. Aspire to become a pilot. Congrats. I've always thought someone who could combine passions and get paid for it must be a truly content person. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox.